Good morning, everybody out there in the internet world. If you saw a splash on and flash off, I apologize for that. I'm just having one of those days. All right, so I feel like I'm smiling a lot, and I'm really happy. I want to talk about a sadder a sadder topic. So please forgive my emotions not matching the levity of the topic or the gravity of the topic. And so, what I wanted to talk about is what Amanda and I were just talking about is when is therapy not going to work? When is it too late for therapy? I want to talk about a little bit about how that feels for us as clinicians. And so, and I want to say real quick, and this is just randomness that I'm saying, but I'm always so hurt when people are just like almost blaming the therapist, and it's just like, God, that's the last thing we want. I want you to understand. And man, I'm sorry, you just heard this. Like, I want everybody to understand. Like, most of us, specifically if you're a marriage and family therapist, you went to school to help marriages and families. Like,
Yep.
you fundamentally believe in that. I don't know what to call institution, in the institution of marriage. And so we have studied. I think Amanda and I just said probably thousands of hours to how do I work with this marriage? How do I help this marriage? What does the research say about how to get this couple from point A to point M, to point A to point B, to wherever they're trying to go? And so for most of us, I mean, I won't say all just because I don't like to use absolutes, because it's always, one crazy therapist,
Exception.
one crazy, yeah. But for most of us, we are so wanting your marriage to work. We are so wanting your marriage to feel better. And I want you guys to know that. So, but we also know so many couples don't come into therapy until it's too late. And so, when is it really too late? And so I'm going to say, and then Amanda, I'll give it to you. I think when is it too late? Don't come when both of you guys are checked out. So if both of you guys have checked out, then don't come to therapy. Because I mean, why? Why?
And if you're both checked out, who's engaging, right? I mean,
Correct.
who's paying attention?
Yeah. And with that being said, I would then like to say, do come to therapy though if one person is engaged. And so if one person is like, no, I want to save it, and the other person can at least be neutral, we can get somewhere and we can make progress on that. Because now we have a partnership or teamwork. And so almost I think the best thing is think about a sport, offensive and defensive. Okay. And so you can't win a game on offensive alone, but you can pick up some yardage. And just like you can't win a game with defense alone, but you can keep some things from happening. Like you can mitigate some circumstances.
Absolutely.
I can keep the other team from scoring. So if you think of a couple that's coming together for marriage therapy and we only got one part of the team out there working, that's okay. Because we can either pick up some yardage or just mitigate some problems. Either way. And now I have help. I have a therapist who can help me. I have somebody who's also engaged in the process. And so think about that like a coach on the sideline. Just somebody to say, hey, I see that. I see you. Okay, what if you work it like this? I think we can pick up 2 more yards if you do this instead of that. If you do this instead of that. And then 2 yards becomes 3 yards.
Right.
3 yards and then another 3 yards. And now we're picking up some momentum. And then the other partner starts to feel it. That, yeah, it is. Because what we know as therapists is that a system is a system, sorry. a system can be impacted by one change.
Yeah.
A culture can be impacted by one change. And so if we make that one change, the ripple effect is kind of like the pared down version of the butterfly effect, right? That one wing flap is causing a tornado in Kansas. But it's the same thing. So if I can get something simple like one partner in the argument to stop arguing and say something simple like, I want our dynamic to be different. I love you and I don't want us calling each other names anymore.
Yeah.
Wait, mind blown,
Yeah.
right? Because then
Yeah.
what's the
Just
other
like
partner
that
going to?
one change in pattern, right? Like,
Yeah, just
it can be
one.
so impactful. And I'm so glad, Natalie, I love that analogy, like as a game or, offense and
Mm.
defense, because so often I use the spider web analogy because we are
Ooh,
systemic, where, I think about on playgrounds, they have that spider web structure, like
mhm.
climbing and stuff they have now. And if one person pulls on one side, the whole thing shifts. Um,
Right?
but what I like about your analogy, one, like we're in the South and sports are king. But two, it's that you have a place for the therapist in there as a coach or a referee or however you want to conceptualize.
However they need it.
Where in the spider web analogy, it's sometimes hard to figure out where the therapist fits in,
Mhm.
because the system is the family or the marriage.
Mhm.
And like we are part of it as
Mhm.
therapists. We are, a few minutes ago, we were talking about, we can be a hinge between couples of engaging one when the other's not there and
Yeah.
mentally there. So I love that analogy. And I agree with everything you're saying. Like, I think there's a misconception culturally, and I encountered it even in my program at school, that a lot of therapists want to see more divorces, or therapists don't care about marriage because we want to
Right.
point out we're here to help spotlight issues that could be
Yeah.
improved.
Yeah.
And I just thank you for saying that, because I really do believe in marriage, or
Right.
coupling. I do believe in
Hmm.
coupling.
Hmm.
Sometimes marriage, can be a
Right.
little,
I get that.
but I do
Yeah.
believe in coupling and relationships that serve you emotionally, spiritually, physically. And that's what we do. So don't wait too long, because that makes everybody's job. I'm not just talking about our job, Natalie. That makes their job so much harder
Mm-hmm.
when they wait too long, because I mean, think about an injury. If you twist your ankle,
Right.
say you tear a tendon in there and you don't
Hmm.
know, you don't get it checked
Hmm.
out, you keep walking on it, that tendon gets scar tissue on it. And then it's like doesn't work so well anymore. You could
Yeah.
have had it fixed right away, a
Yeah.
week after, but you
Hmm.
waited 2 years and then there's nothing they can do. And that's kind of a rough analogy. And I don't want to suggest,
No, that was a really, really good analogy because I think
oh,
that's what happens.
thanks.
Like because I've had several times where, and I'm going to say specific, we started really talking about marriages and I want to come back to that, but specifically in sex therapy, I've had several cases where I'm like, oh, babe, I mean, not, I'm sorry, I wouldn't say that to a client out loud, but my heart feeling is like, you poor guys, you've been struggling with this issue for 5, 6 years, we're going to have you guys doing better in like 3, 4 sessions,
Yeah.
which is probably seeing a couple every 2 weeks. We're talking 3, 4 months, five,
Yeah.
6 months, just because, especially when, and I'm not saying every case is a simple case, but I'm saying like there are some cases where just as the therapist, I can tweak your thinking or call out your thinking, which what gets you thinking differently.
Mhm.
And so now you can have a different approach, a different plan, a different pattern. And so,
It can be
yeah.
so simple, Natalie. I mean, I love that you say that. Like, one of our jobs as therapists, we can instill hope in
Right.
folks who, if you've ever been to couples counseling, you're usually not there because everything is 100% great, right? At least,
Right.
those first few
Right.
sessions. And it's easy to be hopeless. Like, oh, this will never change. We've been together 10 years and we've been having this same fight.
Yeah.
So we can instill hope. And there's something so special about, I think, that aspect of our job is
Mm-hmm.
that
Mm-hmm.
I think, we have these tools, we study all these hours, and, we get these tools to help clients. And I think about like how impactful, like learning active listening can be, like
Right.
for people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I gave an example to a client recently. I said, like, listen to how it sounds like I need you to do the dishes versus it makes me feel really cared for when you help me with the chores. Like
Oh, yeah.
those
Because it's
things,
like, well, I
like,
want you to feel cared for. Like,
speaking, active listening, and reflective like conversation where we
Mhm.
speak to our emotions, that's not natural for most of us. We don't have a culture,
Right.
particularly we're getting better, but like when we
Yeah.
were growing up, that wasn't a priority for
Yeah.
people to listen and speak that way.
Yeah.
And that's something that we can teach couples in a few sessions. Like
No.
that's not 10 years of therapy there. That's a few
No.
sessions and like a change like that. And like you said, a lot of couples like don't hear this and think that every couple is out of our office in a few sessions, but just like going back to that spider web or that
Hmm. Hmm.
theory analogy, like you change like that element and all of a sudden other thing, those dominoes can start to fall. I feel more cared about. Oh man, like you're getting sexier because
Hmm.
you care
Hmm.
about me, I care about you.
Right.
That can lead to more satisfaction in other areas. So um thank you for like just I love the
Thank
like
you.
I feel like I'm talking the whole time.
No, no,
But
no, no.
no,
And I love
I
it. I
love
love it.
that.
I really do love to hear you guys speak. Like when I'm on these lives and I'm like, oh my gosh, like these are my clinicians and they're out there helping people and this is amazing. I love to hear you guys talk. Okay. What would you say another like don't come to therapy if?
Oh, don't come to therapy if I have what I want to say in my mind. I'm trying to
Think
if
about
you're
how to say it politically correct.
if you're having an affair and you're not willing and your spouse knows and wants you to stop and you're not willing to stop, I don't know if it's worth coming to therapy.
Right. That's the
And
thing.
you're the more experienced clinician here, Natalie. So feel free to rein me in because infidelity is something that's so complicated.
It's so complicated. Okay.
Um, and I want people to know healing from infidelity happens. That's not, I don't want to scare people away, but if you know your spouse wants you to stop and you're not willing to, I'm not sure if
Yeah.
it's the right time in therapy yet.
And I want to split that like
Yeah,
hair
please.
is so because there's a I don't want to lose my marriage and I don't know how to get out of this thing that I've created. Like it
Yeah, you're right. You're
it,
right.
it grew. And then there's a I don't really care what my spouse says. I'm not getting divorced because I'm not splitting the assets and they're just gonna have to deal with it. Like that person, don't come to
That's the
therapy.
person I'm thinking
Don't
about.
don't come to, don't come to, don't come to therapy.
Yeah.
Like I was talking earlier this week and just throughout the course of my career, I've had some people in therapy and it's like I can't call you a liar. I'd never call because I don't like that. I don't like my couples to say their partner is lying. But I gotta say that story does not sound plausible. No way, no how. Like so,
Thank you for that language because because I'm sure I'll encounter that. I'm not sure
right?
that's possible.
It and I remember myself specifically saying, "Yeah, that's just not how it works.
Mhm.
This just not how this just not how it works." So, um, it's sitting there, and so I'll say from the clinician side, um, and I won't say every clinician feels like this, but a lot of us are have that like question like, "How stupid do you think I am?
And
Do
that's
you
you
not?"
think your partner is, right?
Right, right. And I actually don't like that question, but you get
But
that
we're
feeling
human. We
like,
think about it,
yeah, like
right?
you get that
Yeah.
feeling. Like, I don't know how you think, like, did you even think about that? How that would come out, like how somebody would say that. And so I think those cases are particularly hard when, uh, um, oh, so let's maybe say it that way. The
Okay.
couples that where one person isn't willing to be truthful
Okay. Yeah, I
in
like that
their
better.
recovery. Yeah. So because that, and I don't think you'll hear me say this often because I really don't think therapy is a waste of time, many much ever. But
Me either.
that's usually a waste of time. Like we are going through what imaginary magical motions for
Mhm.
what
For
reason?
what? Yeah.
And so, why are you making us do that?
Yeah.
And I know why. So you can look like you're working on it
Yeah.
to pacify the hurt
Appease your
injured
partner.
party, and because you're and so don't come to therapy. Like, but if you really are torn, if you really are one of those people who's like, I don't know how I messed my life up like this. Like I don't like know. And now, because that's the thing about an affair, but let me say like the affair partner, the outside person. I mean, culture. Um, I would be. I don't want to say that, but what's a nice way to say it? Like I want to say, because in some culture, kind of very colloquial, they say side piece. But I don't. What's the professional way to say that?
I think a fair partner is a
Is a
I
fair
see that in
partner.
the literature at
Okay.
times. Yeah, like
All
the
right.
affair partner or the yeah.
Yeah.
We'll
Okay.
go with
So
that.
the affair partner, they're a whole real person.
Absolutely. And our culture often demonizes folks.
Right.
We
As
don't
if,
know the story.
yeah, as if they're not a whole real
Human.
person that can also get caught up in like, well, I didn't really mean for this to happen. Like that, like it, like I've sat with a couple of people who in therapy, and they're like, I am not this person. I don't know how I got here. I don't really know how this like happened. Like, and I love their heart because they're like, I'm in therapy to figure out like how
How this
when
happened.
my character is here and I've always said this and I believe this, that my life is looking like this.
And
Oh,
those are the folks that we want to see, right? Like I
yeah.
think
I love
those
those people. I do.
yeah. I mean,
Oh, I love them.
self-awareness is always a gift, right?
Right. But I think that's
Honesty.
like one of the dynamics that makes me love therapy, right? Or the dynamic of a human being, how we can say something and believe something, and then like our emotions, our kind of subconscious has us wind up over here.
Yep.
And then that juxtaposition and how to put them back together. And I love figuring that out in therapy. Like those are my
So much
favorite
fruitful
cases.
work there, or
Right.
potential for work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of what can happen in sex therapy too. So it can happen in an affair world, but it can happen in sex therapy too. Like, this is who I thought I'd be sexually. This is what's actually showing up for me or coming up for me. And I don't understand. I don't understand. Like, I don't understand. And so I just love that. Like that, those dynamics make me so like, it's like,
I love
oh,
seeing you
human
get
beings,
excited.
right? Like, oh, human beings being. And so, because we are these wonderful, dynamic creatures that feel all these feelings. And I love how we can, um, I don't know, just have these ideas and then have these feelings and then the reality and how they all mix together. So, okay. All
Absolutely.
right. We got 6 minutes left. So, any other couple that you can think like don't come to therapy?
I was recently watching a reel, some social media from another therapist, couples therapist who, I hate when therapists do this, but he did. And he's like, there's only three reasons why couples should get divorced, outside of, some intimate partner violence or,
Right.
abuse. And like the first two reasons, I was like, I don't know about that. But the
Right.
third one was interesting. So I'm interested in your like reaction. He said like couples that their values are incompatible and like deeply incompatible. Like, for example,
Mm-hmm.
if one partner wants to have children,
Mm-hmm.
partner does not,
Mm-hmm.
and you're both sure, it's
Mm-hmm.
not even worth coming to therapy. And I don't know if I agree with that. And that was one example he gave, like
Right.
religion is another example, like if your religions are just so at odds. Um, and I actually noted that to ask
Yeah.
for us to talk about in one of our one-on-ones. And we only have a few minutes here, but it's just interesting. I'm not sure if I agree,
Agree. Okay. You don't have to agree. Matter
but
of fact, you want to do a
I'm
video saying you don't agree?
I'm not sure I agree. However, I
Right.
think I know there's truth there because
Mm-hmm.
we are humans who have values, and
Mm-hmm.
we shouldn't expect to be able to talk our partner out of theirs. So, what is
Right.
your as
And
a
I
more
think
experienced clinician,
it's
like how do you weigh in
I think if it's two different like religions that are at odds, what do we mean by at odds? And how does that show up actually in the
in
home?
your life, right?
And so what does that and so I think we have to look at it. There are so many couples who are married and they belong to two different religions and they make it work. because what's actually showing up in the home. And I think I'm not a religious scholar. I want to be one day.
Yeah, though. I
But I
mean,
think if you look across religions, usually a lot of the core tenets are the same.
right. And
And
that's,
so,
I think my background is a ordained pastor in my
right.
former life, and a pastoral counselor. I think that, I think you're picking up on what I was bristling
Yeah.
at, is that so many values, whether it's about children or religion, like so many of our core values are shared.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I might agree with him that the have children or not have children discussion.
Mhm.
I think he's probably right on that one. If you've really discussed it and you're both sad,
Yeah.
but I think there's so many other like cultural or lifestyle factors that there is so much common ground. So like that's, yeah, I just don't buy that like quick assessment.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. It's so dynamic. It's so dynamic. It's so interesting. Just because there's so many. I think in therapy, I think you'll figure out this. At the beginning, definitely in therapy, I had a couple of couples, and they were like, "We're getting divorced." I'm like, "Y'all really shouldn't. Y'all work. Y'all actually work." And then I had some couples that I'm like, "Y'all should get a divorce." And yeah, as therapists, I would never say that out loud. But in my head, I may be thinking that, and they'd be like, "No, we're staying together." I'm like, okay.
you're like, all right, see you next year.
Right. We'll keep working on it. And so I, I, my belief is, so this is going back to my training, who I want to be in the world. My belief is that if you two got together, out of all of the millions of people in the world, you found this person at the time that you found them in a space where you guys can make a deeper connection, so much so that you guys decided to put it on paper and stand in front of your family and friends, or at least an official, and make a commitment for the rest of your lives,
Mhm.
then I want to honor that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. You
want to
make
honor
space
that.
for it to heal, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm totally with you, Natalie. Like it's so like I like just that, I when we started, I mentioned that thing where I had read like a lot of people think therapists want divorce or, and that's just if anything, if I can leave our viewers with anything, it's that like we're here as sex therapists, as relationship therapists.
Yeah.
That's what we're trained to do, is to help, not to hurt, and
Right?
try, be there as you even help yourselves. I mean, like often we're just walking with, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and another statistic I think is important, and I don't have the number, is, but we've talked about it. Just by coming to therapy,
Mhm.
like just by like making that proactive step, so many people see like improvements, like even just of their
It's
like
true. Yeah.
like goodwill, like in their
Yeah.
like so like don't discount therapy, sex therapy,
That's a very
relationship
valid
therapy.
point. Like I'm laughing at some couples, like because I've had some couples that, let's say, I'm going to say it like an extreme, just hopefully you guys will laugh too, who will like not have had sex for 5 years, and then between their consult call of like, we need to call a sex
Mhm.
therapist, work on this, and their first session, they've had sex.
Right. And like, cause it's just that moving that needle, moving that web,
Yeah. Oh,
little, like scoring
yeah.
a point, and then
Right.
the other, and so I think our analogy, like it stands like the game, the web, like even
Yeah.
just reaching out can make a big impact.
It does. There's something about essentially kind of, I, I'm gonna say draw the line in the sand, but I don't know. That didn't sound like you're signing up for a fight. But I want another analogy, just like I've made a decision to move forward. So I don't know, like put a stake in the ground.
Stake in the ground, something like
Yeah, that okay, I've made it. Like this needs had to have attention, and that's so important. Intentionality is so important. So, but anyway, we are out of time. We've
that. Yep.
gone a minute over. So you have a great day. Thanks for everything.
Talk to you later, Natalie. Bye,
You too.
everybody.
Bye.